It sounds like you're grappling with a deeply challenging and painful situation. If I understand correctly, you've been engaged for about a month to a man you love, but you're beginning to question if you're the right person for him, especially since your family keeps suggesting he would be happier with your sister, Tara. Tara is 27 and, according to you, is everything you're not: confident, outgoing, and admired by your family. This has created an unhealthy dynamic where your parents and relatives are constantly hinting that your fiancé and Tara are a better match than you and your fiancé. You mentioned how your family has been making inappropriate comments, like your mom saying that Tara and your fiancé have a lot in common, or your dad joking about how Tara and your fiancé would make a power couple. Even at family gatherings, it feels like everyone, including your sister, is subtly undermining your relationship. It doesn't help that Tara seems to be spending more time with your fiancé, asking for his help with personal tasks and bonding over shared interests. This has made you feel insecure and like an outsider in your own relationship. Your fiancé doesn't seem to be addressing the issue, and it's making you wonder if you'd be cruel to break up with him, perhaps thinking he would be happier with someone more like your sister. You've started to feel like you're holding him back, and that maybe your family is right. On top of all this, you've decided to talk with your fiancé to clear the air, which is a good step. From what you've shared, it sounds like the conversation revealed that your fiancé has been unfaithful with your sister, and that your family was aware of this betrayal. Now you're left heartbroken, realizing that the relationship you were trying to protect is over. And to make matters worse, your family has been complicit in the deception. It sounds like you're facing the emotional devastation of not just losing your fiancé, but also dealing with the betrayal of your sister and the toxic dynamic within your family. It seems you're at a crossroads, deciding how to heal from this overwhelming betrayal, while your family continues to treat your pain casually. This situation isn't just about the breakup, but about the deeper fractures within your family relationships and the incredibly difficult task of rebuilding trust and self-worth moving forward. As for the bigger question about whether you would have been wrong for considering breaking up with him initially, no, it's not cruel to want to make decisions that honor your needs and emotions, but your family's manipulations have clearly clouded that process. What matters now is giving yourself the space to grieve, reflect, and heal without being pressured by those who haven't had your best interests at heart. It sounds like you're dealing with a complicated and deeply painful situation involving your husband, his overbearing relationship with his mother, and your pregnancy. Here's a more detailed breakdown of your experience. You and your husband Joel have been married for 3 years. You initially had a good relationship, though you've always been concerned about his close, perhaps overly dependent, relationship with his mother, Amy. Amy is extremely protective of Joel, even referring to him as her baby boy, which has been unsettling for you. She often oversteps boundaries and inserts herself into your life, sometimes without your consent. For example, she insisted on having the first dance with Joel at your wedding and tried to wear a cream-colored dress, though you were able to prevent that. Recently, you became pregnant with your first child, and while both you and Joel were thrilled at first, Amy's behavior during your pregnancy was difficult for you to handle. She insisted on attending all the doctor's appointments and made moments that should have been intimate between you and Joel feel like they were about her. During your first ultrasound, for example, Amy grabbed Joel's hands and cried, leaving you feeling sidelined. She even suggested throwing her own baby shower for the child, so she could have supplies for the baby at her house. When you tried to voice your discomfort, Joel defended his mother, which left you feeling unsupported and alienated. Unfortunately, you suffered a miscarriage, which was devastating. But even in that moment of loss, Amy's actions were overwhelming. When she found out about the miscarriage, she showed up at the hospital and cried so loudly that Joel had to leave you to comfort her in the car. Being left alone at such a vulnerable time deeply hurt you, and while Joel later apologized, you struggled to forgive him. Since then, you've distanced yourself emotionally, sleeping in a separate room to process your feelings. Then a few months ago, you unexpectedly became pregnant again, but this time, instead of sharing the news with Joel and Amy right away, you decided to keep it to yourself. After your traumatic experience during your first pregnancy, you were apprehensive about sharing the news and facing the same overwhelming involvement from Amy. You found comfort in this pregnancy being just yours, enjoying the quiet moments and feeling your baby move without having to share it with anyone. You're now 18 weeks pregnant, wearing baggy clothes to hide your growing belly, but you know you can't keep the pregnancy a secret forever. You're torn between wanting to protect yourself from another emotionally draining experience with Joel's mother and needing to tell Joel the truth. You're also afraid of how Joel might react once he finds out that you've been hiding the pregnancy for months. This is a tough situation because, while you love your husband and want to make things work, you also feel suffocated by his relationship with his mother and the way she dominates key moments in your life. You've asked if you're the a-hole for hiding the pregnancy from your husband. While keeping this secret might be unorthodox, it's clear that you're doing it because of the trauma and emotional neglect you experienced during your first pregnancy, particularly from your husband prioritizing his mother over you during such critical moments. It's understandable that you wanted to avoid that pain again, but now you're at a crossroads, wondering how to move forward without making things worse. The advice you receive suggests that you may need to seek counseling, both individually and as a couple, to address the underlying issues in your marriage, especially Joel's relationship with his mother. This could help you express your feelings openly and work towards setting healthy boundaries between your family and Amy. Some have even suggested that you have a plan in place before revealing the pregnancy, such as securing alternate living arrangements, in case Joel cannot handle the situation maturely or immediately runs to tell his mother. Ultimately, this is about figuring out whether Joel can prioritize you and your needs as his wife, rather than always catering to his mother's desires. If he can't, you may need to reconsider your relationship and how to protect your well-being and that of your child. You were married to your ex-husband for a considerable amount of time before you divorced, and the divorce was finalized 2 years before your middle daughter got married. During the divorce process, your ex-husband had already lined up a new girlfriend. The day the divorce was officially finalized, he asked your daughters if they were okay with him dating again, which caught them off guard, especially since they hadn't known he had been dating. Not long after that, he invited your daughters to visit him at his new place for a weekend. When they arrived, his new girlfriend was already there, and they were uncomfortable because they had hoped to spend time with him without a third party. After that weekend, he started distancing himself from his daughters and focused more on his new family. He remarried within 8 months of the divorce, and his new child was born the following year. This further strained his relationship with your daughters. Despite this, you maintained a close relationship with your daughters, ensuring they felt loved and supported. When your middle daughter announced she was getting married, she expressed her desire for you to walk her down the aisle, which made you incredibly happy. You didn't consider how this decision might affect your ex-husband because, in your view, he had distanced himself from your daughters and hadn't put in the effort to maintain a meaningful relationship with them. Your ex-husband, on the other hand, didn't contribute to the wedding planning or finances. He told your daughter that buying a plane ticket to attend the wedding would be his gift to her. On the day of the wedding, he and his new family were seated at the far end of the first row, while you were given a seat closer to the head table. After you walked your daughter down the aisle, you glanced at him and smiled, knowing it likely bothered him that your daughter had chosen you over him for such an important role. You're now reflecting on that decision and asking if you were in the wrong for not caring about your ex-husband's feelings during your daughter's wedding. However, it's clear that your priority was your daughter's happiness on her special day, and you feel that your ex-husband's emotional distance and neglect toward his daughters over the years played a significant role in his exclusion from the wedding's more intimate moments. Many people have affirmed that you are not in the wrong, pointing out that your ex-husband's actions, such as his lack of involvement in the wedding and his decision to move on with his new family, show that he places priorities elsewhere. Some commenters mentioned that he was essentially reaping what he had sown by not fostering a close bond with your daughters after the divorce. They also highlighted how his so-called wedding gift, a plane ticket to attend his own daughter's wedding, was minimal effort, further proving his disconnection from the family. From your perspective, the most important thing was ensuring your daughter had the wedding she wanted, and that she was surrounded by people who loved and supported her. Your decision to walk her down the aisle reflects the close bond you've maintained with her, which was a result of your consistent presence in her life, unlike your ex-husband, who distanced himself after remarrying. You received validation that, in this situation, you were acting in the best interest of your daughter and your relationship with her. You didn't prioritize your ex-husband's feelings because he hadn't prioritized his relationship with his daughters for years. Therefore, you feel confident that your actions were justified, and the focus remained on making your daughter's day as special as possible.